Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf, which is Eruvin Daf Mem Tes. We're on Daf Mem Ches Amud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom. We discussed the case of Shalish Chatzeris, 3 courtyards lined up side by side. We have the 2 outer ones, Shnaim HaChitzonos. We have the middle one, the Imtzois. And what occurred was that the outer ones, the Chitzonos, made an Eruv with the Imtzois. Rav Shimon tells us this allows them to transfer the Kelim into the Imtzois, and the Imtzois, it would appear he can transfer to the outer ones as well. So they can use and transfer from one to the other. However, the 2 outer ones, the Chitzonos, are Asurim Zu. They can't transfer one to the other. So if you have a Kli which spent its Ben Hashmashis in one of the outer courtyards, that Kli cannot be transferred over to the courtyard on the other extreme, the other Chitzonim, because these two don't really connect. They didn't establish an Eruv amongst themselves. So the only thing they can do is transfer to the middle one, and the middle one to the outer ones. Now, this is the Shittas Rabbi Shimon. Chachamim disagree. Now, what exactly is the machlokes? The Gemara will explain for us. 5 lines from the bottom. Amar Vidam Arav. Zu Divrei Rabbi Shimon. This is Rabbi Shimon's opinion that the Chitzonos with the Imtzois can transfer back and forth, 2-way access. Aval Chachamim Imrim. They say no. Rishus Achas, the middle one, the Imtzois, that can service. It can be accessed by the 2 outer ones. They can use that middle one. Rishus Achas Mishameshes L'shtei Rishuyos. The middle Rishus, the middle Chatzar, can serve the 2 outer ones. There's no problem with that. Aval Lo L'shtei Rishuyos, but the 2 outer ones, they can't go ahead and serve the middle one. Lo L'shtei Rishuyos Mishamshes L'shus Achas. They can't be Mishamish the middle Rishus, meaning he can't go ahead and have access to both outer ones. He can't transfer his Kli to the outer Chatzeris. Why is that? Because he's in the middle. He has double allegiance. He has already connected to the other Chatzer. He made an Eruv with both Chatzeris on either side. So he has to decide which one. He has identity crisis. He can't go connect to 2 Chatzeris. On the one hand, he's connected to this one, and he's transferring to this one. On the other hand, he's going to transfer to the one on the other side. He can't do that. A person can only relate to one area. He can only belong, he can only reside in one area. He can't go ahead and on the one hand reside with this Chatzar, and the other hand connect himself to the other Chatzar. It's a contradiction in terms. So therefore the middle, the Chatzar Imtzois, he cannot go ahead and utilize his Eruv with the 2 outer ones to transfer to them. They can use him, but he cannot use them. So according to Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, Rabbi Shimon will hold the Chitzonos and the Imtzois can access 2 ways, back and forth. Whereas the Chacham hold, it's only 1-way access. Only the outer ones can access the middle one. But the middle one cannot access the outer ones. Continues the Gemara. Ki amrisa kamei de Shmuel. So this is Rabbi Yehuda speaking. He was a Talmud of Rav, a Talmud of Shmuel. When I related this opinion of Rav, the way Rav presented the machlekes, I related it in front of Shmuel. Amar li, he responded, he was more macher. He said, Avzu divrei Reb Shimon. This too, meaning this view of the Chachamim, the way you just presented the Chachamim Shita, that only the Chitzonos can utilize the Imtzois, but not in reverse, that exactly is Reb Shimon's Shita. He only allowed 1-way access, due to that very reason, because the middle one can't pledge double allegiance. He can't belong to 2 Chatzeris at once. So certainly he cannot go ahead and transfer to both Chatzeris, but they can use him. That is Shita's Reb Shimon. Chachamim are even more machmir. They say all 3 courtyards cannot access each other. The Gemara explained that from Ches Amud Aleph is a concern. Perhaps it's going to cause confusion, and eventually, inadvertently, they might actually transfer the Kelim from one Chitzayna all the way to the other Chitzayna. If Chacham say blanket Isser, all the 3 courtyards should not be transferring to each other. So in conclusion, we have Rav's approach, who says that according to Reb Shimon, there can be 2-way access to the middle one, whereas the Chachamim hold that there's only one-way access, only the outer ones to the inner one. So Reb Shimon says two ways, Chum say one way. Where Shmuel says even Reb Shimon only holds of a one-way access, only the outer ones to the middle one, but not the reverse. Whereas Chachamim say no access whatsoever amongst all these three chatzeros. Says the more Tani Kava say that Rav Yehuda Abliba de Shmuel. We have a brayso which supports Rav Yehuda's version according to Shmuel, which says that even according to Rabbi Shimon, only one-way access is permitted. Oh, Rabbi Shimon, Lama Davar Daima. So Rabbi Shimon here is referring to the case where you have several fellows out in the field and they all get 4 ames. So we have 3 people lined up, 2 people on the outside, 1 smack in the middle, and he's sharing some territory with a person on either side. And the Mishnah says the people on the outer perimeter of this arrangement can go ahead and share space with him and transfer kelim. And Shimon says this is similar to the case of the 3 chatzeros. What is it similar to? The shalish chatzeros hapsuchos lezu. We have 3 courtyards lined up next to each other with access to each other. Each one has access to shusarabim. If the 2 outer ones made an erev with the middle one, so they have access to the emtsois. So the members of the outer chutzner on one side, on the right side, they can bring their food from, can bring it from his house into the middle chutzner and eat there. Likewise, the people on the other side can do the same, bring their stuff into the middle chutzner and eat it there. After they finish their meal, the members of this chutzner can take their leftovers and bring it back home. We're not concerned perhaps that they're going to actually bring over some kelim that originated in the chutzner on the other side. So concerned they can bring their leftovers back home. Likewise, the other chutzner can do the same. So it's very clear that according to Reb Shimon, when we have this type of arrangement, who has access to what? It's only the outer courtyard that can access the middle courtyard. But it's very clear that the middle courtyard cannot access the outer courtyard. So that's Reb Shimon. And this is compatible with Shmuel's approach that even Reb Shimon only allowed one-way access. He didn't allow the emtsois to access these side chatzeros, due to the reason we mentioned earlier, because he can't go ahead and reside in 2 places at once. So that's Reb Shimon, one-way access is allowed. All 3 chatzeros cannot transfer one to the other. We're concerned about confusion. Continues the Gemara, and Shmuel is actually very consistent with his own opinion stated elsewhere, that when you pledge double allegiance, it doesn't work. Let's say we have a chatzer in the middle, and on the right side we have a mavoy, an alleyway, which has its own collection of courtyards which access that mavoy. And on the left side of this chatzer, we have another mavoy, another alleyway with several other chatzeros there. Mavoy shebein shnei chatzeros. Chatzer, shebein shnei mavoyos. I have a chatzer between 2 alleyways. So what is the halacha here? Now Rashi points out the fellows of the chatzer will actually access. They're accustomed to using both alleyways to access the shusarabim. So this theoretically should require them to be included in the erev. It's actually not an erev, it's a shita mavoyos that is going to be established in those respective alleyways. Because he has usage rights, he uses it, so he needs to be included. When the mavi will make a shituf amongst all its chatzeros, to merge them into one usage area and allow access, carrying from the chatzer to the mavi, then they have to include the members of this chatzer as well, because they're accustomed to using their alleyway. So we're speaking about the chatzer that's in between 2 mavois, who uses both of them. So we're going to have 5 halachas. This chatzer chose to participate in both erevs, with both alleyways. Asurim shneim. In this case, he made it worse for himself. He cannot access either one, based on the reason mentioned earlier, because one person cannot reside in 2 places at once. This chatzer can be connected to 2 separate mavois. So this is compatible, consistent with Shmuel's approach. The next scenario is lo irvem shneim. What if he neglected to make an erev with anyone, with either of these mavois? That also is a problem. Oyseres al shneim. He goes ahead and he makes it usher on both of those mavois. They can't carry because they didn't include this chatzar who accesses their mavoi in their sheet of mavois. The third case is hoisa ba'achad regila or ba'achad ene regila. Let's say this chatzar would regularly use one of the mavois. He was a commoner there, but on the other side, on the other side, he's not accustomed to accessing it. So in this case, we say, well, he really belongs to this mavi, the mavi which he regularly uses. Therefore, we say zeh sheregila ba'aser, the mavi in which he's a commoner, that mavi is aser because unless they included him in the erev. But otherwise, they're aser because he's meant to be part of the arrangement. But the other mavi where he's not accustomed to walking there, that's okay. It's mutter without including him in the erev. Amar Rabbi Rav Huna, and some add the word Amar Shmuel. There's also a halacha named Shmuel. What happens if he makes an erev with one of these mavois? Ereva im she'ena regila bay. Let's say he makes an erev with one of them, but he happened to choose the mavoi where he's not accustomed to walking. That's okay. Huta regila atzmai. The other mavoi, which is actually the place where he regularly walks and uses, that's mutter on its own, meaning they don't need him to participate in the erev. Why? Because once he has connected himself to one of the mavois, he made an erev with them, that indicates that he's detaching himself, at least for the time being, for Shabbos, from the other mavi, on the other side. So this allows them to carry without including him in their erev arrangement. He's not part of the equation. So that's the solution to our situation. We have a chatzar between two mavois. If he neglects to make erev at all, then everything's awesome. If he makes two erevs, it's also a problem. So what should he do? He should make an erev with one. And the chiddush here is, even if he decides to make an erev with the mavi that he doesn't usually use, that's okay, because he connected to them and he detached himself. He delinked himself from the other mavi. So they don't need to be concerned about this chatzar, and they can carry on their own. So everybody's okay. Another halacha. Va'amar Rabba barafuna amar Shmuel. Let's say im irva regila la'atzmai. So we have the two mavois on either side, and the mavoi where this chatzar commonly accesses decided to make an erev on their own, without including the chatzar into their arrangement. That's one part of the equation. Now the mavi on the other side, where he's not actually accustomed to walking, did not make an erev in the Shabbos, so they can't even carry there. And the chatzar as well didn't make an erev with any one of these mavois. So what happens here? So the mavi which really made an erev, they established an erev amongst themselves. They didn't include the chatzar, but they made an erev amongst themselves to allow carrying. They can tell the people of the chatzar, look, what do you have to lose? Do us a favor. Just detach yourself from us. Go ahead and access the other side, at least for the Shabbos. So although generally you're accustomed to walking through our mavi, but do us a favor. During the Shabbos, we'd like to carry. You didn't make an erev with us. So perhaps detach yourself from us and connect yourself to the other mavi for the time being. And by doing so, you're going to allow us to carry in our mavi. You don't need to be part of our erev. So that's halacha. They can do that. They push the chatzar away to the other side, to the mavi where actually he's not accustomed to walking and using. This is an example where we compel somebody to comply, not to conduct oneself as they did in Stoim, where they were very particular with their possessions and wouldn't allow others to use it, even if it didn't involve personal expense or any harm. They were just very stingy and very, very defensive, very protective of their properties. We're kaifa, we force somebody to comply, not to conduct oneself like the midas stoim. This is an example where, look, you have no loss using the other mavi. Please, just go over there. This will allow us to freely access our mavi and to carry within. So in summary, we had a case of Shalish Chatzeris, with a machlokes between Reb Shimon and the Chachamim. According to Reb Shimon allows two-way access. The Chitzonis can access the Mtsois can transfer to the Chitzonis. That's Reb Shimon's approach. Chachamim say, only one-way access is allowed. Only the Chitzonis can access the Mtsois, but not the Mtsois to the Chitzonis because it can be connected to two courtyards at once. According to Shmuel, even Reb Shimon holds of that svara, and therefore only the Chitzonis can access the Mtsois, but not in the reverse. What do the Chachamim hold? All three Chatzeros are also with each other. We proceeded with the case of a Chatzer, which was situated between two alleyways. We have 5 scenarios. If the Chatzer established an Eruv with both Mavois, in which case he's been connected to two sides at once, that's a problem. He cannot transfer to either one of them. If he neglected to make an Eruv altogether, then he actually makes them both Asr, because we're speaking about a case where he's actually using both of them, and he's meant to be part of the Eruv arrangement. Let's say he's only Ragul Ba'achas. They only regularly use one of the Mavois, then he's meant to be part of that arrangement. So that Mavoi is Asr if they don't include him in the Eruv. But the Mavoi on the other side, where he's not a commoner, they can carry without including him in the Eruv. What if he decided to make an Eruv with one of the Mavois? Then everything's okay, because he's attached himself to one of the courtyards, one of the alleyways, and detached himself from the other side. So therefore they don't need to include him in their arrangement. We won't conclude with a case where if one of the Mavois made their own independent Eruv, without including him, and the Mavoi on the other side never really established an Eruv, so in any case they can't carry there on Shabbos. So they tell the Chatzer in the middle, what's the law say? Just go and access the other Mavoi, who in any case can't carry there. So the Doicha, the Chatzer to the other side, and by doing so, they don't need to include him in their arrangement, and they can carry through their Mavi. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel, Hamak b'dal Eruvin. If one is particular about the food that he placed into the Eruv collection, he doesn't want anybody to access his food. So he collected food from the members of the Chatzer, and he would like that his food remains his. Nobody should eat his food. Ein Eruv, that Eruv doesn't work. Why? Mashmoy. What is it called? Eruv Shmoy. It's called Eruv. What is the definition of the word Eruv? An integration, a mixture, a merging. If you're not really merging together, not creating this true pleasant partnership, you're particular about your food, that you remain separate, and not be accessed by the others, then you haven't really accomplished what you meant to accomplish. Rav Chanina Amar, Eruv Eruv. Even in this case, it works. They call him, you're like one of the members of Vardina, which was a location in which the residents were stingy. So you're a stingy man. It's not ideal, but nevertheless the Eruv works. Now Tosef Rabbeinu Peretz points out that we're speaking in a case where, although he's particular, he would like, ideally, that his food shouldn't be tampered with, but nevertheless, if, let's say, the other members insist, surely he'll relent, he'll allow it. Otherwise, the Eruv really wouldn't work, according to all Shittas. The reason why Chanina says it works is because at the end of the day, he would allow them, under pressure, he would allow them to actually access his food. Whereas Shmuel holds, since he's not happy about it, and he has the wrong mental approach to this whole thing, wrong attitude, he's not integrating mentally, it's not considered to be a proper Eruv. That's a one halach of Shmuel. If he's particular, it doesn't work. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel, another example, he splits the Eruv. He puts his food in a separate container. Ein Eruv, it doesn't work. Here again, you're not integrating properly. You're placing your food separate from the others. Kiman ki Beishamai? Is it halacha following Shittas Beishamai? The Sanya Chamisha Shagova Eruvin. 5 members of the Chatzer collected their Eruv food, and they placed it. They split into 2 containers. It doesn't work. It needs to be in one container. It does work. So Shmuel tells us that the Eruv food needs to be contained in one container. Is he following Shittas Beishamai? That's problematic. Says no, afilu tema Beisil. He can be going even according to Beisil. Ad kan, like Amar Beisil Hasam. It's only over there. The Beisil say it's okay. Ella de malyon lamana v'yater. We're speaking where they filled the container with the Eruv material, and there was a spillover. They need to get another container to put the rest. So since initially they didn't place it in two containers, that's okay. It joins together, it's considered to be one collection, one entity. That's over there. But if initially he split the Eruv into two, such as in our case of Shmuel, even Basil would agree that the Eruv is not valid. Okay, so we have the first halach of Shmuel. If he has the wrong attitude, he's not mentally integrating, it doesn't work. The second halach of Shmuel, if the Eruv's physical appearance, it doesn't give that impression of proper integration, the Eruv is not chal. It doesn't work. Why do we need both statements of Shmuel, which are really based on the same underlying principle, that it's not properly integrated? It says more tzrichi, both are needed. Had he only said the first statement, because he's particular about it, and he's not mentally integrating. But in the second case, where that element is not present, he's not makvid on his food, but since they placed it into two separate kelim, it's no good. Over here, perhaps in this case, since it's not an attitude problem, perhaps that's okay, despite the fact that it appears separate. Therefore, Shmuel needs to tell us, even this is a problem. Had he only said the second halacha, when it appears like two separate portions of the Eruv, I would say, yeah, that's a problem. Because he split it into two, so in its physical appearance, it doesn't appear like one and the same entity. Therefore, it's not a proper Eruv. It's not a proper integration. Aval Hassam. But in the first case where they placed it together, one kli, there's a problem with his attitude. Perhaps that's not so severe. It would not invalidate the Eruv tzricha. Therefore, Shmuel needs to teach us in both cases, whether it's an attitude problem or a lack of integration due to the physical appearance of the Eruv. In both cases, the Eruv doesn't get activated. Amalei Rab Abel Rav Yehuda. So Rabbi asked Rav Yehuda the following question: V'matzarto d'Rav Zakkai, and the olive press of Rav Zakkai. Now the Gemara elsewhere, I think it's in Avodah Zarah, so the Gemara says, it actually increases. The Gemara says that there's a story there where one Tana asked a question of the other Tana out in the marketplace. Why does the Mishnah need to mention, cite the location of where it took place? The Gemara says, the Mishnah is highlighting that even on the road, even when they were preoccupied, they were in the marketplace, shopping for the wedding there, what were they involved in? Words of Torah. So here as well, he asked him the question in the olive press of Be'er of Zakkai. Is that the case that Shmuel says that if one splits the Eruv into two containers, it doesn't work? Then Shmuel say, so they would place the Eruv food, they would collect the food and place it in one of the homes. Now, what's the point of the collection and the placement? So, just in brief, that the Erech Hatzeres was to allow carrying because the home is a person's personal domain. The Chatzer is a shared area. So carrying from one to the other appears like he's taking from one type of Rishus to the other, which perhaps can be confused with Rishus Yachad, Rishus Rabim. Therefore, we have a takana meant to integrate everybody into one residence. We collect the food, we place that food in one of the homes, thereby making that home the common residence for all the members of the Chatzer. It's as though they're living together, one happy family. There's one house here, there's one residency, and the Chatzer is merely serving that residence. So it's all just one entity, one usage area, one Rishus. So Shmuel tells us that the house in which they place the Eruv food, the homeowner of that home, he himself doesn't have to contribute anything to the Eruv. So more at this point figures, certainly has to contribute, but the fact that he has some bread in the other room, the kitchen, that's okay. He doesn't have to place it together with everything else. My timer, why doesn't he have to place his food here? Lav mishum da'amar. Is it not because we say, the kiva d'manach b'sala, since his bread is sitting in a basket somewhere in the house, kima d'manach ha'chadami, it's as though it's sitting here together with everything else. So apparently the fact that it's in two separate locations, that's okay. Ha'chanami here as well. When this person split the Eruv into two containers, kiva d'manach b'sala, since the food is sitting in a basket nearby, come on, the manach hachadami. let it be considered as though it's sitting together. So you have a kasha from one shmuel on the other shmuel. Amar later, Rabbi Yehuda responded, no, that's not the pshat. In the case where you place the erev food in a person's home, he doesn't have to contribute whatsoever. There's no need for him to even add anything. Hasam afal bish ein pas. Even if there's no bread whatsoever in existence in this person's home, he doesn't have to contribute at all. Why? My time. Because what's the point of bringing the food into this house? You're taking everybody's bread and bringing it here, and it's as though they're all living here. This becomes everybody's place of residence. The homeowner is living here practically, physically. He's here. He's here already. He doesn't need to contribute anything to the Eruv. So that's the pshat, that the homeowner doesn't have to contribute. But generally speaking, certainly when we collect food of the Eruv, it needs to be placed in one container so that it's properly integrated and merged into one entity. Amar Shmuel, so we speak about Erev Chatzeres. What are the mechanisms? How does it work? Amar Shmuel, Erev Mishum Kinyan. It works based on the concept of acquisition, which means that when they place everybody's bread in one of the houses, what happens is that the homeowner is considered as though he's granting a portion of his home, ownership of his home, usage rights to his home, to all the members of the Chatzar. So it works based on the concept of kinyan. They acquire a piece of that home. And by doing so, this leads to the next step. It's as though they're living here. And once they're living together, then the entire Chatzar is only being used by one residence, and this allows them to carry throughout the Chatzar. So according to Shmuel, it's based on kinyan. They acquire a piece, a partial ownership of this home. So if that's the case, why don't you just use money? Why don't you use bread? If you'll ask, why don't they make the kinyan using money, which seems to be better than just using bread? The answer is because not necessarily is it found. Is money around during Erev Shabbos? Everyone spends their money on Shabbos expenses. So Chacham didn't want to speak about money. Rather, they dictated you meant to use food. Food and bread is very, very common, very available at that point in the week. Says the okay, so it appears it was a convenience thing. Okay, so let's say he chooses to use money. It should work. The point is merely a convenience point. But if you have money, shouldn't that work as well? Says the Gemara, no. Chum were concerned if they allow money to be used, perhaps one will mistakenly think that money is the proper way of doing the kinyan. And what's going to happen? Perhaps will come a time that they won't find the coin, but they won't even think of making Erev with pas. They'll say you have to do it with money. No money, no Erev. And as a result of that, they won't make it Erev. And things will get ruined, meaning there won't be an Erev established. And Rashi adds that the entire concept of Erev will be forgotten. So that's why Chacham insisted don't use money. Actually use bread, which is something commonly found at that time of the week. This will ensure the proper establishment and continuity of the concept of Erev. So Shmuel holds Erev Rishim Kinyan. It works through acquisition. They acquire a part of that home. Rabba Amar Erev Mishum Dira. It's based on Dira. There's no acquisition taking place, no Kinyan. Rather, the fact that they place the food in this home, it's as though they're living here, because where a person's food is, his sustenance is, that's where he is. That's where his mind and attention is focused at. So it's as though he's living there. That becomes his place of residence. So there's no need to make a kinyan. The mere fact that his food is there is regarded as though he's living there. They're all living together in the same house. It's one united, integrated residence. Let's take a look at Rashi inside. 7 lines from the bottom. It says Rashi, Erev, Shu Mitzarfen. This Erev that connects everybody, Taima Mishum Kinyan. It works based on a Kinyan concept. Shemaknu L'Balabais Reshusay. Because the homeowner who's going to host the Erev food grants them partial ownership of his house. And as a result, everybody is a partial owner of this home. And the entire courtyard now is serving this home, which is everybody's home, So the Chatzar is considered to be just serving the single residence, which is the only residence found in this courtyard. So if it works based on Kinyan, that leads us to the question, why don't they make an Erev with money? Each one should give this coin, and by doing so, let him acquire the property, his friend's property. The answer is, because perhaps people will consider this to be the proper way, and if there's no money available, they're going to refrain from making the Erev, and eventually the whole concept will be forgotten. So this is Shmuel's opinion. Rabbi says, Erev mishum dira, shadate shel adam al pitay. A person's mind is focused on his bread. Where a person's source of sustenance is, that's where he is. So when they place the person's food in this home, it's as though he's living there. And as a result, in this entire courtyard, there's only one residence, because all are living in this home. And if so, the entire courtyard is designated for this home, for this rishus, for this residence. So the entire courtyard only encompasses one residence, one courtyard, which is serving that residence. So we don't have many divergent residencies, many different type of usage areas. The Erev combines and integrates them all together. Says the Gemara on the bottom line, my binai. Is there any halachic difference between Shmuel, who says it works based on Kinyan concept, and Rabbi, who says that it works based on the Dira concept? Now, the Rashba points out that even according to Shmuel, the process begins with Kinyan, but ultimately it ends up with Dira, meaning the Kinyan achieves that integrated residency there. At the end of the day, you're living in that home. It's not just that you have ownership of that home. It's as though you're practically living there. So Shmuel also agrees that the ultimate goal here is to arrive at a common Dira. But he holds it's a two-phase process. There's Kinyan, which leads to Dira, whereas Rabbah says it's only has one element. It begins and ends with Dira. There's no Kinyan required. Says Ramai Binayu, is there a halachic difference here? Yes, there is. Kli. So according to Shmuel, that it works based on Kinyan. What if you use a Kli to make a Kinyan? This is going to be a Kinyan Chalipin, like they do with the Rav on Erev Pesach. Mechiras Chametz, they take a handkerchief, they take it from the Rav, and then they grant him permission to sell the Chametz. So this is called Kinyan Chalipin. You take a Kli from somebody, and in exchange, he acquires ownership of something that you want to give him. So in this case, they can approach this homeowner, give him a Kli, and in exchange, acquire partial ownership of his home. So according to Shmuel, this works, because it's a proper Kinyan. According to Rabbah, it doesn't work. You need to have specifically bread placed in this home, which will bring you in there, which will make you a resident of his home. That's one afkamina. Upachas mishar pruta. What if you use food which is worth less than a pruta? So according to Shmuel, it won't work, because a shava pruta is the smallest amount that can activate a kinyan. So since you only have less than a pruta, it won't activate the error, because it won't accomplish kinyan. Whereas according to Rabbah, as long as there's food there, that's okay. You don't need kinyan. The third difference would be the katan. So Rashi learns whether a katan can go ahead and collect its food for the Erev Chatzeres. According to Shmuel, he cannot, because he can't accomplish kinyan. According to Rabbi, he can, because we're not trying to accomplish kinyan. The fact that he's collecting the food, putting it in that home, automatically brings them all in here. Taisus disagrees with this prat. It brings a raya from the Gemara and the Flaman Aleph. Rav Huna says a katan can collect the Erev, and it seems that Rav Huna is working even according to Shmuel. Therefore, Taisus brings the Pirush of Rach, that katan means whether you can use the house of a katan. Can you place the Erev food in that home? So according to Rabbah, why not? According to Shmuel, you can't, because when you bring the food in there, the homeowner is meant to grant you a portion of his home. A katan can't be makna. You can't go ahead and grant anything to others. Therefore, according to Shmuel, it wouldn't work. Okay. Amalei Abai Rabbah. I have a double kasha. Lidi dach kasha. According to your approach that Erev works on the concept of Dira, I have a difficulty. Well, the Shmuel kasha. Likewise, according to Shmuel, that it works with the Kinyan concept, I also have a kasha from the following brayse. Hatanya Chamish Sheshagova Eruvin. If 5 members of the Chatzar collected their Erev material, merged together, made Erev Chatzeris. Now they'd like to connect themselves to their neighbors in the Chatzar adjacent to them. So it seems like standard procedure was that they would take their Erev material that they already collected, which is the essence of their residency. They would take that very bread and bring it over to the Chatzar next door, thereby connecting with them and creating that greater Erev, allowing transfer between the 2 Chatzeris as well. Says the Brayse, when they bring their Erev to their neighbors, not necessarily do they have to specifically bring this food. Rather, Echad one member of this Erev, one member of this Chatzar, can go ahead and take his own personal bread, bring it over to the other Chatzar, and by doing so establish a connection between all the members of his Chatzar with the members of the Chatzar next door. Now the question here is, the obvious kasha here is, whichever way Erev works, whether Kinyan or whether Dira, who's doing the Kinyan, who's doing the Dira? It's he himself and nobody else. He's the one that's contributing. They're not contributing to the Erev. Who knew the Kakani? So if there's a Kinyan that's involved, he's making the Kinyan. He's the sole contributor. It's his bread. V'suloi, nobody else. Who knew the Kadair? Whether it's according to Rabbah, based on the concept of Dira. So where the person's bread is, that's where he's living. He's the one living there. It's his bread. V'suloi, nobody else. So how does it work? That was Abayi's kasha to Rabbah. Amar lei. So he responded, the teretz is simple. Loi l'didi kasha, v'lo Shmuel kasha. This is not a kasha on me nor on Shmuel. Why? Shlichus de kulu. This person who has already connected himself to all the other members of his chatzar, he's already integrated and created that partnership. So when he goes and connects to the other chatzar, he's not only acting on behalf of himself as an independent individual, rather he's representing his entire group. He's part of a group here. Shlichus de kulu kavod. He's doing a shlichus and a service on behalf of all of them. Therefore it works. Concludes the Gemara. Back to the question of those 3 courtyards, those shalish chatzeris, where Rav Shimon says the outer ones who made an Erev with the emtsais can transfer, and they can do it in both directions, according to Rav's approach. According to Chachamim, only they can transfer to the emtsais, but not vice versa. So who does the halacha follow? Amar Rabba, Amar Rav Chama, Rav Guri, Amar Rav. Halacha ke Rabbi Shimon, that the Ichitzoyne and the emtsais can transfer back and forth. So in summary, how does the Erev Chatzeris work? Shmuel says it's instigated with the concept of Kinyan, and that brings them into this home. It's considered to be their joint place of residence. Rabbah says it works based on the concept of Dira. So where a person's bread is, that's where he's living, and therefore they're all living together in the same home. Gemara tells us there are 3 differences here between Shmuel and Rabbah. Number 1, whether you can use a kli. According to Shmuel, yes, because you're doing a kinyan. According to Rabbah, you specifically need food. If it's less than a shava pruta, according to Shmuel, it doesn't work, because that won't make a kinyan. According to Rabbah, as long as you place some food there, that's okay. And regarding using a katan, according to Shmuel, it wouldn't work because you can't make a kinyan. According to Rabbah, even a katan can make the Erev Chatzeris. Continues the Mishnah. Misha ba baderech v'chash chalei. So this fellow's out on the road, and he sees it's getting dark. Shabbos is coming, and he's 4,000 amma away from his home. So he'd like to go ahead and establish a Erev Tchumen, some type of Shabbos residence out in the distance, which will allow him to walk there, and then from there beyond, all the way to his home. Says the Mishnah, and from afar, at a distance of 2,000 amma, what does he see? He sees a tree, he sees a fence. He makes an announcement. My shvisa is underneath that tree, on the bottom of that fence. But he didn't specify exactly where, which 4 amas is going to become his makam shvisa. Lo yamar klum, he hadn't said anything. His erev is invalid because he didn't specify where exactly his makam shvisa is going to be. The makam shvisa is a person's Shabbos residence. You need to know where you're living. So in this case, it doesn't work. What about shvisasi b'ikari? He says, my shvisa should be at the trunk of that tree. So he specified the exact location. In this case, it's activated. That becomes his Makom Shvisa and allows him to walk 2,000 Amma in all directions from that spot. So as a result of that, he can make it home. Mahalech Mimakum Ragov Va'adi Korei Apayimam. He can walk from his present location up until the trunk of that tree, 2,000 Amma, and from there beyond. Umi Korei Vad Beis Apayimam. From the trunk up until his home, another 2,000. Nimtza Mahalech Mishach HaShecha. So this results in this fellow walking after nightfall, Arba Salafim Amma, a total of 4,000 Amma. Imeni Makir, let's say he doesn't recognize any landmarks which would allow him to make this announcement, or perhaps he's not really versed with these halachas, he doesn't know that one can do such a thing. So instead he said, Va'amar Shvisasi b'mkaymi. I would like my Shvisa to be established right here, in my current location. So that works. So his Shvisa becomes established right here, and he gets 2,000 all directions. Taisus points out, he doesn't actually have to say Shvisasi b'mkaymi in this case where he's actually present at the Shvisa location. Even if he's just merely there, and he certainly has in mind this should happen, it works, even if it doesn't explicitly state it. So in any case, he's Zoicha, he gets this territory, a stchum of 2,000 all directions. Agulas, they're measured as a circle, meaning a radius of 2,000 amma in all directions. Divrei, Rabbi Chanidim and Tignis. V'chacham ayimrim merubbois. We create that square around him. So it's a square of 4,000 by 4,000, he's right in the middle. Kitavel merubas, like a square tray. What's the benefit of a square? Very simple. Kadeshie niska lazaviyos. So that he gains the corners. Meaning, if he chooses to walk diagonally, in the diagonal of that square, instead of merely 2,000, he can actually walk about 2,800 amma. This is learned from Psukim. Continues the Mishnah, V'zui she'amru. This is an example where the Chacham said, Ha'ani ma'arav v'raglav. The ani who has no access to food, he's out on the road, he can make an erev simply by his presence, without using food. Amarav me'er anu ein lonu ela ani. We only said this regarding an ani who has no access to food. But a person who has access to food, he must make the erev using food specifically. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, no, echad ani v'echad asher, whether an ani or asher, they can make an erev merely by their physical presence. Shalei Omer ma'avrim pas. Why did the Chachamim speak about making the erev through bread? Ela lahakal la'asher is merely to provide, to accommodate, to make it easier for the usher. Shalei yetzi v'arva raglav. So you wouldn't need to trouble himself to go out to the erev location. You can send some bread, but actually, being physically present at the erev location is superior to using food. Says the Gemara. So we began with this fellow who's out on the road. It's getting dark. He makes an announcement. I'd like my shvisa to be underneath that tree, somewhere underneath that tree. We have a wide tree, 30 amas wide, the branches that is. So we don't know exactly where he'd like to have his shvisa. Mishnah says it doesn't work. Lo yamar klum. My lo yamar klum. What does that mean? He hasn't said anything. So you have two approaches. Amarav. Lo yamar klum kal ikar. He hasn't said anything. Da afilu l'tachtav shel ilan. Lo yimatzi azal. He doesn't even have the ability to walk to the tree. Why? Because since he didn't specify the exact location of his shvisa, where underneath that tree he'd like it to be activated, that doesn't work. And since he really uprooted himself mentally from his current location, he wanted to be shevis there and not here. So he was akar. Rashi says he was akar date v'libo. His mind, his heart, has been detached from his current location. He indicated he doesn't want a shvisa to take place here. This fellow doesn't have shvisa, not there nor here. He's like a person who's out of the tchum. He only has 4 amis. Ushmuel Amar. Shmuel maintains that he has shvisa, but it's undefined. We don't know exactly where underneath that tree. So that creates a suffix, and we're going to have to adopt a stringent approach, taking all possibilities into consideration. But he will get shvisa somewhere underneath that tree. Ushmuel Amar, lo yomar kum leveisei. He hadn't said anything regarding allowing him to walk home, meaning, as a result of this statement, he can't walk home. Aval atachtav shel ilan matzi asl. But certainly, he can walk all the way to underneath that tree. So the picture is like this. There's a diagram on the bottom of the page in Rashi. In some editions, it's actually accurate. In any case, the picture is like this. He's standing on the right, and within 2,000 amma, he has this tree. Now, we're not sure specifically under which part of that tree he's going to have his shvisa, whether it's the far side of the tree, the suffering side, further from him, or the closer portion of the tree. Durin. We're not sure. But in either case, the entire tree is within his boundary, within his 2,000 amma. But the entire tree is not within the 2,000 amma of his home, because if you calculate from the home back to the tree, it ends right in the middle of that tree. So the suffering of the tree is within 2,000 of the home, but not the Durham side. So when it comes to walking from his present location to the tree, he's allowed to, because even if the Eruv was activated on the Safan side, underneath that portion of the tree, either way, it's within his boundary of 2,000. But he can't walk all the way home. Why? Because perhaps the Makom Shvisa is on the Durham side of the tree, which is beyond 2,000 of the home. So that won't allow him to walk home. So Shmuel says he can't make it home, due to the fact that we're not sure where the Shvisa is. Perhaps it's on the right side of the tree, which is beyond 2,000 of his home. But he can actually walk to the tree on any side of the tree, because either way it's within 2,000. So that's okay, but he can't walk home. Now, what if he says, look, okay, perhaps the Shvisa is on the Durham side, which means it's closer to me. So from that portion of the tree to my current location is actually less than 2,000 amma. The tree is 30 ammas wide. So I'm actually less than 2,000 from my Shvisa point. I'm 1,970 ammas. So perhaps, based on that, you should allow me to walk backwards 30 amma. Let's say I want to walk to my right 30 amma. I can do so, because it's within 2,000 of the right side of that tree. No, we say no, we can't do that, because perhaps your Shvisa is on the left side of the tree, on the southern side. In which case you're exactly 2,000 amma from your Erev location. You can't go anywhere to your right. So we take into account all possibilities, and we go to Chumrah. Let's see the Gemara again. Shmuel Amar, Lo Yamar Kum Lebeisai. It's ineffective. It doesn't allow him to walk home, which is perhaps beyond the Tchum Aval Tachtav Shel Ilan Matzi Azl. But he certainly can go to the bottom of the tree. V'nasa Tachtav Shel Ilan. The bottom of the tree results in a limbo state. It becomes Chamar Gamel. It creates a confusion for him. It's like a person who's driving a donkey, who goes forward, goes in front, at the same time leading a camel behind him. He's stuck in the middle. He's being pulled in both directions. So the bottom portion of that tree creates that uncertainty. It pulls in both directions. He must take into account that perhaps his Erev is on this side of the tree, perhaps on the other side of the tree. If he says, well, let us calculate from the Tzafim side of the tree. Let's assume my Shvisa was on the left side of the tree, which is within 2,000 of the home. Allow me to go home. We say, no. We calculate from the Durham side of the tree. We say, well, perhaps your Shvisa is on the right side of the tree, which is beyond 2,000 of your home. You can't get home. Now, if he says, okay, it's on the right side of the tree, which means that I am currently less than 2,000 from that location. I'm 2,000 minus 30. So let me walk to my right, which is still within 2,000 of that closer side of the tree. If he says that, we say, no. He wants to calculate from the Durham. And we say, no, perhaps your Erev is on the southern side of the tree. That's where your Shvisa is. In which case you're exactly at the 2,000 mark from your Shvisa. So you can't budge from your space. You can't move to the right at all. So Shmuel maintains the Shvisa does take effect, but it's applied stringently. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rabba, my time in the Rav. What is the reason why Rav holds that this Erev doesn't work at all? Mishum Delay Messiah Masri, because he didn't specify the exact location of his Makom Shvisa. Underneath that tree, where? What? He didn't say anything. So, a Shvisa is a person's residence. You need to know where you're living. Therefore, it doesn't work altogether. There's another version, Amarava, my time of the Rav. What is Rav's reason that this doesn't work? Because he holds like this. A person only has one opportunity to get a Makam Shvisa, 4 Amis. If a person should say, well, I'd like 4 Amis from Makam Shvisa, then, you know what, I want another 4 Amis, and another 4 Amis. That certainly doesn't work. Therefore, says Rav, if you can't do it incrementally, consecutively, you can't do it simultaneously either. Such as in our case where he's announcing, I'd like the large area underneath that tree, which is greater than 4 Amis, to provide me with a Makam Shvisa. He's involving the entire area. He's activating the entire area underneath that tree to provide him with a 4 Amma Makam Shvisa. Now, although he just wants 4 Amis, but he's engaging and involving the entire area. Provide me with 4 Amis. So just as he can't go ahead and get 4 Amis plus 4 Amis plus 4 Amis, that certainly won't work. Likewise, he can't activate Shvisa in an area which is greater than 4 Amis, even though he's doing it in one shot, simultaneously. It won't work. Because he holds, we apply the following formula. Something which can't be activated incrementally, consecutively, it can be done even all at once. The classic case is a person is Mekadesh Rachel. He can't go be Mekadesh his sister Leah. It won't work. It's Eina B'zeh Chazeh. What if he says, let me do it at once. Simultaneously, I'll be Mekadesh Rachel and Leah together. No. If it doesn't work B'zeh Chazeh, it won't work together simultaneously either. That's the Pshat and Rav. Says Ramai Binayu, is there a difference between the first Pshat? The problem is he didn't specify the location. And second Pshat, that it can't work simultaneously. Is there a difference? There's a difference in the following case. The Amar liknuli be'arba amis migoy shmoina. Let's say he announces that let me have 4 amis out of the 8, out of the greater area underneath that tree. So in this case, he's specifying, I don't want to activate the entire area. I'm not involving the entire area. I want specifically 4 amis and no more. So it depends which pshat we approach. According to the first pshat, the problem is he didn't specify the location. In this case as well, he didn't specify. It doesn't work. He said, I want 4 from that larger area. He didn't specify where he's living. So it doesn't work. But according to the second approach, the problem is that he's engaging this entire area to provide him with the 4 amis. It's too large an area. It's more than 4 amis. He can't do that. He can't activate such a large area. But this case is different. In this case where he's specifically saying, I only want 4 amis. I'm not involving the whole area. I want 4 amis. He didn't say which one, but I only want 4 amis. In this case, it's going to work. High kabras amas dummy. In this case, we treat it like your typical shvisa of 4 amis. The hocha arba amis coming. Because here he specifically said, I only want 4 amis. So in this case, it works. Now, Taisus points out that apparently Shmuel holds that even if he didn't explicitly say it, we assume this is what he meant. And therefore, Shmuel holds the Eruv works. So in summary, if he announces that my shvisa should be underneath, somewhere underneath that tree, Mishnah says, Lemar Klum. Rav says, he hasn't acquired a shvisa whatsoever. We have 2 reasons. Number 1, because he didn't specify the location. According to the second shot, because he's engaging too large an area, a greater area than 4 amis. And therefore, even though he's doing it at once, it won't work. The Gemara concludes, if he specifically says, I only want 4 amis from that area, it works. Shmuel maintains, the shvisa works. But he's a chamor gamel. He's pulled in both directions out of uncertainty regarding the exact location of his shvisa, whether on this side or that side, and therefore we have to adopt all possibilities l'chumrah. Okay, time for a brief review of today's daf. We began with the machlokes of Shimon and Rabbanan by the shalish chatzeris, where the outer ones made an eruv with the middle courtyard. According to Rav's approach, Reb Shimon will hold that the chitzonis can transfer to them tzois. The middle one could transfer to them. According to Chachamim, only the chitzonis could use them tzois. But the tzois can't transfer to them because he has double allegiance. He's connected on both sides to the chatzeris. Shmuel's approach is, at this very shita is actually Reb Shimon's shita. Only the chitzonis could use them tzois, but not in the reverse. According to Chachamim, all 3 chatzeris cannot transfer shloshta nasuris. What about a chatzah which was situated between 2 alleyways? If you made an eruv with both, that creates problems because He has double allegiance. If he neglects to make an Erev altogether, then nobody can carry. If he's used to using one, then he must make an Erev with them, but the other one is mutter regardless. If he actually made an Erev with any one of them, then that's fine, because he's detached himself from the other side. What if one of the Mavois made their own independent Erev? So they can tell the Chatzah, go use the other side, and allow us to carry. Shmuel tells us if a person is makbid at the other members of the Chatzah, shouldn't access his food. Or he split the Erev into two, he put his Erev in a different container. In both cases, he hasn't properly integrated himself, and the Erev doesn't work. How does an Erev work? According to Shmuel, it works based on the concept of kinyan. According to Rabbah, on the concept of dira. If a person makes an unspecified Erev under a tree, but he didn't specify where, according to Rab, it doesn't work altogether. According to Shmuel, it works. But we must take into account all possibilities.